Recording in progress.
Staff and Daniel, are you okay with us getting started?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes, staff are good too.
Great. All right, welcome and good afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining this meeting of the second Agricultural Expert Panel for a work group meeting on May 27th, 2026. I'm Sam McGill with Sacramento State University, assisting the State Water Resources Control Board with facilitation of the expert panel. Really excited to have you all here today. I know we're getting close to the end of the process. It's been really wonderful to see so many folks joining all of these meetings, especially late in the day. Before we get started, I want to hand it over first to State Water Resources Control Board Chief Deputy Director Karen Mogus for opening remarks, and then your expert panel work group, your expert panel chair, Dr. Daniel Geisler. Karen.
Thanks, Sam. I'll keep this brief. Thank you again to all of the panelists for all your hard work. I'm hoping that this is the last working session of the panel based on all of the good progress that you all made last week, and Daniel, Dr. Geisler's very well prepared and well facilitated meeting last week. I think I'm confident, I'm optimistic that you're close to the finish line. So really look forward to today's discussion and very much look forward to the final plenary that's scheduled next Friday, June 5th. And really appreciate all of the diligent work that you have put into this effort. And I'll just keep it at that and look forward to more discussion. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karen. And Daniel, any opening remarks before we jump into the agenda and introductions?
Good afternoon. Thanks, Sam and Water Board team for organizing this meeting, and thanks everybody for joining us today.
All right. Let's take a very quick look at our agenda here, and then we'll do a round of introductions for the other expert panel members today. Today's really a continuation of the discussion that you all had back on May 18th, last week, to continue a review of the public comments received and continue the discussion of the draft report. As Karen mentioned, this is expected to, at least as things stand right now, the final work group meeting before the plenary session on June 5th, and we'll talk about that in just a moment here. But really, this is an opportunity to take a look at modifications to the document that were made based on public comments and based on the great work group discussion on the 18th. As we always do, the bulk of the meeting will be set aside for panel discussion. Around 5:40 this evening, we'll break for public comment. I have received just one comment request in advance. If you are interested in providing public comment at that 5:40 time slot, I'll provide some very brief instructions on how to join the queue at that time. But with that, why don't we go ahead and do a round of introductions for our panelists. I'll start at the top of my list with Ali Montazar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ali Montazar, UCC Irrigation and Water Management Advisor in Southern California.
Thanks, Ali. Hannah Waterhouse.
Hannah Waterhouse, Assistant Professor at UCSC and Soil Biogeochemist.
Thanks, Hannah. Richard Smith.
Hi, everybody. Richard Smith, retired farm advisor, Monterey County with the UC Cooperative Extension.
Thanks, Richard. Michael Kahn.
Good afternoon. I'm a Irrigation Water Resources Farm Advisor with UC Cooperative Extension based in Monterey County.
Thanks, Michael. Go to Atume.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Godo Atsume. I'm a Sigma Technical Assistance Coordinator with UCNR.
Thanks, Go to. Ruth Dahlquist-Willard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ruth Dahlquist-Willard. I'm the Interim Director of UC SAREP, the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program at UCANR.
Thanks, Ruth. And Thomas Harder.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Thomas Harder. I'm professor and professor of cooperative extension for groundwater hydrology at University of California, Davis.
Wonderful. Thanks, Thomas. Did I miss any of our extra expert panel members? I think that's everybody. Okay. All right. I have just a couple of very, very brief introduction slides, and then I'll hand it over to Dr. Geisler to lead the discussion on the draft report. We wanted to sort of showcase all of the different panel meetings and touch points that we've had since the start of the process in August 2025. On the left side of your screen here, you can see that plenary meetings were held on August 8th and August 14th for kickoff meetings. There's an additional panel plenary on Halloween, October 31st. And then our final, the slide needs to be updated slightly. The final plenary meeting is scheduled for next Friday, June 5th in Sacramento. There were also two public listening sessions held, first on October 1st and the second on December 17th. These items were held primarily to hear directly from impacted members of a variety of communities, whether it was agricultural producers, the environmental justice communities, and regulatory agencies such as the regional water boards. We got a whole bunch of wonderful comments that were very useful in forming and shaping the draft report. In addition to that, you can see all of the many, many panel work group meetings on the right side of the screen. I won't go through all of those dates. I think when we started this process off, we were expecting maybe 3 or 4 of these, and you can see how quickly, given the complexity of the discussion, how quickly that expanded. So really appreciate everyone sticking with it. And then finally, a public workshop was held specifically to provide an opportunity for public comment, verbal comment on the draft document. That was held on April 10th in Sacramento. There are just a couple of key dates coming up that I want to mention. We've already touched on. June 5th will be the final plenary meeting of this expert panel. There's a few things that we're really hoping to run through at that time, including a review of any final edits to the document. If there are additional edits made during June 5th, those will be made live during the meeting using a shared screen to allow the public to follow changes in real time. Once the document is considered final, we're going to be asking all of the panelists to vote to approve the document. If there are additional modifications that are needed, the panel can task the panel chair, Dr. Geisler, with making those modifications. The document would still be considered final at that point, though, and it'll really be pencils down. That's sort of the end of the process. So we're getting really, really closely. After that approval, the Water Board will be working with Chair Geisler and with Water Board staff just to do final formatting and Americans with Disabilities Act accessibility requirements to provide kind of a clean, publishable report that will ultimately be posted to the State Water Board's website and turned over to the State Water Board itself for next steps. On June 16th, the board will include an informational item on the panel recommendations. We'll be working with Chair Geisler to deliver the recommendations from this panel. And I really want to note the text in blue here at the bottom of the screen is really critical. The State Water Board is going to initiate a technical evaluation of the recommendations at that time. And any action on the recommendations will be determined by specifically by board direction to staff. So it's important to note that even though the panel process may be concluding at the end of next week, the State Water Board itself will pick up the mantle and make a determination on how to move from this wonderful scientific report to potential eventual actual State Water Board action. That process will, of course, include all of the typical public touch points that every board process goes through. So maybe the end of the panel process, but there's certainly more to come as the board, as we transition, the board really takes this up. So I just wanted to share those so everybody's on the same page on what to expect over the next couple of weeks here. And that's sort of the extent of what we had for you today. Want to, at this point, go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Geisler to start a conversation of the draft document itself. Daniel.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'd like to share just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I think we go through the comments everybody provided and have a discussion. It's great that everybody on the panel could make it today, so we can have a good discussion and everybody can be involved. So thanks a lot for taking the time to join us again today. So the first comment was by Mike Kahn asking to add this sentence to the executive summary. Does everybody agree that this is a good addition? Or any opposition to adding this sentence to the summary? And if yes, then I will suggest later to add it to the text as well, so that it's not just in the summary.
Daniel, sorry, my video is off because my computer is going extremely slowly. I think that the only thing I would suggest is to just switch rainfall events and then the need, put rainfall events first.
Mm-hmm. Due to rainfall events and the need to Due to rainfall events, the need to leach salts that build up in soil and other circumstances.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And if anyone cares for the reasoning, I just think rainfall events will impact more, like the need to leach salts is not ubiquitous across all cropland. So that's just, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, works for me. Okay, then let's go down. So everything that's read, that are the comments we already discussed last time, and unless you have, or there were no comments on these, so I just go, we're not going to discuss them, but if you see anything I'm missing, then let me know. So my suggestion is to add the same sentence here that would be background nitrogen dynamics in cropping systems. And we mentioned when nitrogen fertilizer applications exceed crop uptake, surplus N can be lost to the environment, primarily through nitrate leaching to groundwater. So I suggest adding the same sentence here, that it's in the main text and not just in the summary. If nobody opposes that. Oh, yeah, sorry, Ruth?
I support that. I wonder if there's anything else it would make sense to add, like would it make sense to add volatilization as another form of loss?
We just say some losses are inevitable, or
Well, all the things we list are about leaching, but there's other ways of losing nitrogen so that it's not available to the plant anymore.
So leaching and other losses to include everything.
Well, we just say losses. We don't say leaching losses, but all the examples are about leaching. But there's other losses that are not connected to leaching, like volatilization. I'll defer to all of you. But I just thought might round it out a little bit to mention some other processes, but it's not an important point.
What's your suggestion? Should add changing or revising what we have here, or revising the sentence Mike suggested?
Some losses are inevitable due to the need to leach salts, rainfall events, volatilization, and other circumstances out of the control of farmers. For example, if we wanted to add another process.
Okay, let's go back then to the sentence so that.
But
Or Michael,
Daniel,
did you have a comment?
This sentence was really about the controlling leaching. That
Okay.
there's some reasons that growers cannot control it because, so I don't know, volatilization is not impacting the groundwater,
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So can we keep it like that, Ruth?
Sure.
You're okay?
I was thinking about whether all the A is available for R. But that's different. I guess that's a different point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we do have the list of all the different losses here or in the graph. So volatilization is here. It's just not mentioned separately. Or
Yeah, sounds
actually
good.
under 8, we do have ammonia volatilization. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Here, Mike and Ali revised or added more content to the characterization of agriculture in California. It looks good to me. Thanks, both of you. Are there any comments or things that should be added or changed in this new expanded section? If not, then I will just replace the old with the new section. And then, here, Mike suggested adding that the East San Joaquin Valley order includes A over R. Mike, does adding this sentence address your concern? And we really go into much more detail in chapter 1.2, so I try to keep it as short as possible. And you're mute, Mike.
Yeah, I wrote that comment due to a Region 4 letter that's just suggested, just stating that the A, the R, A over R, and the A over R outliers are all outlined in the East San Joaquin order. I don't know if that's all those components were somewhere in the document here, but they suggested just stating that, and I thought that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. So we go into more detail in the section we just went through. I believe A over R, and that means that basically includes A and R. So
yeah,
I would say that's good. Okay. Then I will change description of your task. And here, Mike, another comment you had. I was wondering, do we really have to define the length of the sticks, or can we just keep it as carrots in parentheses or in quotation marks?
Yeah, I thought it was a good point they made that really it's a smaller stick, that targets are not carrots. So
I agree that a target is not a carrot. A carrot is an incentive, like, the credits for using cover crops or those kinds of things would be more like credits or like carrots.
Well, shall we just delete stick and carrots as a whole? Enforceable limits or develop compliance pathways that rely on targets.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So delete this. Does that look better? Okay. Then Ali, you had a comment that we should define targets and limits, but we actually have this definition right at the beginning of this chapter here. And that's copied and pasted from Karen's presentation to the panel. So that's the definition she provided. And then under point 6, we also define the benchmark. That's the other thing you mentioned here.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. But I don't know why still public comment asked for clarification on this. Maybe we don't have it in one place very clearly. I don't know. Because I saw some comments.
Yeah, I saw them too, but I thought they probably just missed the introduction. They went straight to the questions and didn't see the introduction. And the benchmark is also defined when we first mention it. And I think that's a good place to introduce it.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Then, Mike, you suggested adding target limits may be applied to a specific crop, specific multi-cropping system, or to a specific land area at a scale determined by regional conditions, data availability, and management objectives. Shall we add that? Basically, I believe that's your suggestion, Mike. Is that correct?
Yeah, that came out of one of the letters that I read and thought, okay, that makes sense.
Is everybody fine with this addition? Okay, then Ngulu.
I think the addition is fine. Most of that is already inferred when we say that it's up to the region. So it's understood that the region will do some of that assessment of regional conditions and the data they have available. But I think it's a fine addition.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Okay, we'll add it. Then here another comment you cite, Ali. We should go into more detail about the short and long-term effects on groundwater. My impression is we have chapter 6. Thomas wrote several pages about that. Again, of course, people have to read the whole report, but I'm kind of reluctant to keep repeating things we put into specific chapters. What do you think, Ali?
No, I have the same, evaluation. If you think we have enough, acknowledgement on that, I think we should be fine. Because it seems to me still public, they like to see, that acknowledgement about the response time. I think
so you write 4 years and often much more and refer to chapter 6. And that's really chapter 6 written by Thomas. That's really detailed, I think, and also including references. So
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Mhm. Okay, then I would suggest keeping it this way. Then the next comment is with point 7. I'm not sure, Mike, what you mean here with clarification for surface water impacts. You write nitrate contamination of surface water. So what more should we clarify here?
A good question. I just remember in the letter, they asked for clarification, like maybe some examples. For example, you have environmental uses, and you wrote other beneficial uses. Do you have any other examples? Would it be for drinking water or? I mean, we can ignore that.
Does anybody feel we should add something here? Other than that, yeah, I would suggest just keep it the way it is. Is that okay? Okay. So if nobody objects, then I'll just move on. Otherwise, just stop me. And here we have an example A over R of more than 2. I read that comment too, that not everybody agreed. It's an example, so I would suggest, instead of discussing is the correct value 2, 2.5, 3, 4, let's just delete this example and leave it open. So what would everybody say if we just delete this and leave it to excessively high values? Okay,
Sounds good.
Mike, Anna, Ruth, all agree. Okay, then let's delete this. Thank you. And here, Mike, you suggest, or somebody suggested to remove limits here. I don't agree, because under point 9, we mentioned that it may make sense to have initial limits. So if we write this here, I think it makes sense to include targets and limits under 12 as well. Gudu?
I have a different comment.
Aha, yeah.
I have a comment on line 876. The one you just read, actually. No, sorry, this has changed. Okay, 9.
Yeah, it has changed because we
Bullet
added
point 9.
some text.
Okay.
Is that 889 or?
So 881, where it says regional boards may set initial limits that all growers should. I know that above, I was listening to the last meeting, there was a revision made to the word should to need to in one of the responses above. And I wonder if we should also change it here, that regional boards may set initial limits that all growers would need to or meet within a time frame. So changing that word should here as well. We made
I think that wouldn't that change the meaning of the text here? I think the idea was that if all the growers or a lot of growers already meet it, then limits make sense, but it not need to meet. That could be anywhere, even if growers don't, or a lot of growers don't meet these limits yet. or will not be able within 3 or 5 years?
So I think at the point where the regional boards decide to set the limits, on which we were saying in line 881, then the growers would need to meet that limit. That's my understanding of the text we have in line with above. They will need to meet it within that time frame.
Yeah, I think
other
I
comments as
understood it a
well.
bit differently, but Richard, do you have a comment here?
Well, this you have to read the whole thing to kind of get what we're talking about here. These initial limits that we discussed were for in that that 80th. We put 80 to 90th percentile there. We didn't really decide on that, but really to capture those outliers that are outside of that at the initial high limit, that's set just to kind of bring everybody in to to a reasonable level of A minus R. That's how I interpret this.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was the discussion. So, in my opinion, the should is correct here, but
I guess if it's a limit, that's enforceable. All
And
growers
maybe
need
should be must instead of should.
must. Yeah,
If it's
I like that.
I think that the idea here was to think about who meets these limits already. When we say must, then that's afterwards. But the idea here is that look at how many growers can already meet or these limits, and then set them there. And not if we say must or need to or have to, then that's it's very different from what we discussed in.
I hear what you're
as a
saying.
group.
Yeah.
So look, what is realistic for most people, for most growers to meet, and that will be the limit.
So what about saying that all growers can technically meet within a reasonable time frame?
Can technically meet.
That's
Ruth?
kind of how that's how I was thinking of it also, that it's more about this is a limit that's actually feasible.
Mm-hmm. So how can we clarify this point?
How
Instead
about
of should.
initial limits that are feasible for all growers to meet?
I like it, Ruth. That's a good one.
Except that we did delineate it a little, down below where we talk about 80 to 90. So it's not all growers meeting it, but that's kind of the assumption, I guess. So maybe that is good wording. I don't know. We're getting into a thing that's a little bit out of our wheelhouse. We're talking regulatory words and stuff. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion about the word.
But even with initial limit, whatever is even low, it doesn't mean all growers can meet. Because they apply maybe more and they cannot meet.
Mm-hmm.
I think the current language, Ruth's suggestion sort of covers.
Yeah,
That should be fine.
should work.
Yeah, and then it gives them a time frame to be able to make that amendment. So, because the text above says that they're excessive, right? There's a point at which it's excessive. So this initial limit, something that is feasible for them. So this should work. This is like our
So-
ongoing. We always come back to this, but I think this should work.
Oh, yes.
It's true.
So
I
is
think
it
the
okay?
reasonable time frame qualifies it too, within a reasonable time frame.
Yes. So is it okay to make that change?
Yeah, that looks good. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay. Then so here, yes, because of that point there, we talk about initial limits. That's the reason why I think we should keep limits here and not remove them.
I agree, Daniel. I think we should keep it.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to be consistent, we could say targets / limits, and then we're not saying if it's an and or an or it's a little more, I guess, inclusive of both.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do elsewhere. We say targets / limits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good suggestion, I think. Okay, great. If nobody else nobody objects, then I'll just move on. Region 4 requested to be included here. I think that's not a problem. Then the coalitions really didn't like this section here. Shall we keep it or delete it?
We expected actually when we put together this statement, we expected coalition don't like it. Yeah.
Of course, yeah, that was clear. So the question is,
But they
keep-
said
do we
that
keep
it's just not feasible to do it. And so I sort of respect their judgment.
Ruth, what do you think?
So this is an actual carrot, and I like carrots. So I think it would be helpful to keep something here, but maybe we could make it a lot more general. Could we say something like coalitions can explore methods of incentivizing, using fees to incentivize better practices, or reduction in nitrogen use and reduction in A-R? Then it would be up to the coalition or third party to determine a method for that. I think the concept is important, but maybe the details here are too prescriptive.
Well, sorry, just getting back to Richard's comment earlier. I think if there's a scientific justification for including it in there, obviously the board will defer to all of your expertise. If it does become more of a regulatory issue, then the state board will make it on that.
That makes sense.
Hannah?
We also say could. So this isn't prescriptive. And again, like Sam said, I think, this I felt was like, here's a potential carrot that could be considered. But we're not being prescriptive.
I think there are other kinds of incentives that could be developed too. I don't know if we talk about this anywhere, but reduced reporting requirements over time could be another incentive for good nutrient management. Like if you've shown over the last 5 years that you have done things really well and that you're not affecting groundwater quality, could you then go into another tier where you don't have to report as often, for example? But that would be, I think, just up to the coalitions to figure out if that was feasible. And again, yeah, maybe we're getting more into the compliance procedures, and that's not our job. But I think there's potential for something like that, maybe with less detail here.
And I think reduced reporting, that would need to be approved by the water board. This
Certainly.
is something that coalitions could do on their own, just to be proactive or incentivize growers who already do a good job.
I think that's just the concept to note. is how to incentivize growers that are doing a better job at getting low A-R values. So what are some potential incentives that could be considered?
I think perhaps one thing here, concerns the coalition is because we asked them to be regulator here, basically, because they increase the fee, it seems they do the fine, and perhaps they don't want to go that far. I think that's the concern for coalition, and that's a fair concern. It seems that the fine comes from the coalition, their own coalition, and they don't like it.
Well, maybe another way to say that is, since coalitions are funded by grower fees, it also is problematic to undermine the economic basis that the coalitions are funded by, right? So maybe that's also problematic. Yeah, I don't know. Michael?
Mike?
Well, another point that was made is they're not just paying fees for the groundwater impacts, but also surface water monitoring is a big component. And so how can you say, oh, your fees are less because your A-R is lower, but maybe you have a lot of runoff in the winter time and you're having impacts there. So it's like weighting one part of the ag order more than another was another point that was made.
Richard?
Well, based on what Mike's saying and what was written, and I like the wording that Ruth came up with. I think we should just minimize our input here, prescriptive, input, because it seems like it might be off base, and so we should leave it as general as possible.
So Ruth, could you repeat what you said? I'll try to write it down as quickly as I can, but speak slowly, please.
What about coalitions or third parties may consider various incentive methods to reward growers? Same language in the middle there. You could copy reward growers who already achieve low A-R values. That's the important piece. After structure, you could just
There
you go. Reward.
yeah.
Start with reward. To reward growers who already achieve low A-R values, and then delete the rest, maybe, and then put a period after values, and then say something like, incentives could include fee adjustments, reduced reporting requirements over time, or other methods that provide incentives for effective nutrient management to protect water quality or something like that.
And now, reduced reporting requirements over time or other, can you
Other
repeat
methods to incentivize effective nutrient management to improve water quality, or we could wordsmith that, but just having the idea there that there could be incentives that there'd also be rewards for doing it well.
What does everybody think about WOOP?
Well, can I talk, Daniel? I think
Yes.
this is good, but even we can eliminate the last sentence we just add, because if you look at coalition cannot decide on reduced reporting requirement over time or methods of those kind of things. I think.
So yes, the reporting requirements, that's really something the water board would agree to. So
perhaps we don't need to even mention, even the incentives could increase or reduce, just leave it to the coalition. I think the the incentives is enough, but let's leave it to the coalition, whatever it means to them and their growers.
What if we changed consider to propose, because it would be proposing it to the water boards for approval?
May propose.
One by one, you mean? It's
I mean,
difficult.
that they're not making the decision, right? The water board would be approving it, so they'd be proposing it to the water board. Just to note that it's not just the coalition's decision, I guess. Does that resolve any of that concern?
Ali, what do you think?
You eliminated too much. I don't know where I should read. Uh,
Hmm. What
Maybe-
do
Honestly,
Ngudu?
maybe you just one idea. Maybe you can just put potential incentives could something. We don't prescribe, as Richard mentioned. Potential, yeah. I think that's just
Oh. Ngudu, what
Yeah,
do you think?
I like that potential added. I was going to make a comment that for the fees, my understanding is that the regional water boards come up with those fees themselves. I don't know if it's the state water board that comes up with this, the coalitions rather. The coalitions
Yes,
come
the
up with the fees.
coalitions.
Okay. Yeah, that was just a comment.
Ruth?
would it make sense to take that whole number 1 bullet point that's now shorter and put it under number 2 as a bullet point? Because it's now all about incentivization of practices. I mean, those other number 2 is more about specific production practices, but I don't know if we need a whole number 1 for this. I wonder if we could put it under number 2 and then number 2 becomes number 1.
Aha. Like this, and then delete
Right.
all of that.
Right. And then the small scale, that would be another bullet point.
Yes. Does that look good to everybody? Okay. Thanks, Richard.
Or no strong feelings.
First time I ever used that. I'm not sure which guys are pushing to make all those bubbles happen, but
Okay, let's keep it that way. And I will check in the text where we refer to additional considerations that we have the right numbers. I'll do that afterwards, that we refer to the right section. And then here, we are at question 2. We had a discussion last time. Richard and Hannah discussed it and proposed changes. It's a little bit messy right now because Ali and Mike added suggestions to the old version or to the version that was sent out, and Richard and Hannah revised it. So Richard or Hannah, could you give us a brief overview and address also the comments by Mike and Ali, whether that's now included or whether we should include that or we should make further changes?
Yeah. Well, I think Mike, did we have your comment in here? We don't have Mike's comment on line, what is it, 1048, example 3 to 5 years. And then Mike, you said, or other criteria such as percent of growers meeting a target. That should be added.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did get, lots of feedback that that was maybe a bit too prescriptive. And Ollie,
Just to jump in real quick, Richard,
yeah,
my understanding from some of the conversations that the third parties brought to us was that they are already doing like a 5-year
yeah,
assessment.
yes,
I don't know. So
I think the point that was made by regional boards is if you prescribe a 3 to 5 year interval for reevaluating, I mean, it takes them 3 to 5 years just to create a new framework of targets. And so they need time to just work on enforcing those targets. Otherwise, all their time is just, moving the target. So they just ask that we don't put in some rigid time frame. Examples can become the new criteria for them.
So do we all agree with this addition here?
I think it's good, and we did talk about it again in the part that and maybe it's a little redundant now, but down below where we talked about, guidelines for the percent of growers achieving the intended target limit should be established by the regional board coalition to determine, and that could be based on, the percent. People wanted something a little more strong, some guidance on this, like we just say, well, it's up to them. But, and so that's why the idea of having the percent might be provide the guidance to the regional boards for, okay, people have met this target, now we can move on to the next one, And so that's the idea there.
But Richard, how does that work? Like, I mean, isn't the whole idea of having some regulatory enforcement that you have a time frame within which you set, within which people comply, and you set up that time frame ahead of time?
Yeah.
You don't say, okay, we're gonna let time roll by until we have X% complying, then nobody will ever comply.
Yeah, and that's why, we had the original, 3 to 5 year criteria there. After which time, or at that time, then the regional boards would use some criteria, and that might be the percent of growers achieving that target limit, would then make the decision and about okay, now we can move on to the next iteration. That's kind of what we wanted to express. I'm not sure it's worded as well as it should be right there right now. Now that I look at it after we add what Mike said,
I would propose to leave it the way it is. It's
okay.
an example. We are not prescribing 3 to 5 years. It's an example. What we're saying is that it should be iterative and that there should be a timeline to it, and the boards
Yeah.
decide what timeline they need to make this work. And that's all we're really saying. We don't need to be more specific than that.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
yeah, I think the red text should be deleted. And
Delete it again.
then,
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
It's an example, the 3 to 5 years. So yeah. Okay. Then Ali, you had some comments now after reading the additions by Richard and Hannah. Are they your comments addressed, or is there more you would like to be added?
Well, we had some comments from public. You know, I think this document is really heavy, and a lot of uncertainty, variabilities involved in many things. I don't know if somewhere we should acknowledge that, you know, people, you know, like to see that word uncertainty, and we are talking about all those. I don't know if you think this kind of words can help, because I saw some comments, real comments.
So what would you like to add?
Too many. If we want to do something, we should talk just about that evaluation framework. I think.
Line 1059.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Yes. If you want to do some uncertainty related to variabilities and, you know, those kind of things, I think that's the place perhaps to connect it to the evaluation framework.
But because this would be looking at A minus R data, not groundwater
Oh, it's not right.
measurement levels.
Please, yeah.
And then targeting farmers who, you know, like targeting farmers with technical assistance to help them, like, to figure out, okay, why are you, in your context, are you unable to meet this? And then hopefully.
So it's not a good place for this.
Yeah.
You're right.
But I do like although I think, gosh, sorry, Thomas, it has been a while since I read your chapter 6, but I feel like you talk about some of these issues that Ali brings up. Or maybe I'm just remembering your papers.
No, I think you're right.
Oh, that was the concern from the public, actually.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that is from this comment you cite here. That's definitely chapter 6.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the place is not right.
Guru?
I wanted to ask the line 1061 that was cancelled or struck out, was it moved somewhere else? Or did we take out that language? I guess based on what they're saying.
This sentence here?
Yes, was it moved elsewhere?
Yes, here.
I see. Thank you.
I think it's pretty much the same. Yes, it's just more added to it.
Thanks.
I think the bottom line is, you know, if you read down farther, we refer to the Ag Order 4.0, and they came up with a schedule, you know, for levels of A minus R, and then a timeline for those to ratchet down. And what we were trying to get at here is that's great. We agree with that. We've said that, but I guess what I felt uncomfortable with is that you had to evaluate before you say, okay, this is what we're going to do in like 2028. You have to know if people can do that, you know, and so that's why this is basically trying to go along with what they suggested. It's just that to add this step of evaluation. And we haven't really talked about it much here, but this is where I think, I mean, I will talk about it at other sections. These regional boards, I think, they really do need to have technical panels that they work with. And Region 3 did that when they were developing Ag Order 4.0. And I don't know about other regions, but I think it's just also a very important aspect to this process.
But I noticed, no, I think that's Mike, you added the sentence. We had long discussions about the 70, 80, 90th percentile. I think in the end we decided not to include any percentiles. And shall we include the 60 percentile or just stick to when a majority of growers can comply with the first target limit? We had long discussions, and in the end, I think we avoided specific percentiles. Mike, or Richard?
So, that up above, we gave an example 3 to 5 years or other criteria. The other criteria can be when a majority of growers comply with the first target or limit, So, because you sort of have conflicting things there. One, you say there's a time period that's set, and then here you say, well, when a majority of growers comply, then you could work on setting another target or limit. It seems like what was added and then removed would have been in more, it would make sense with what this sentence is, but it's sort of in conflict because this one's saying, well, when you have a certain percentile, that's when you do it, not based on time. A little bit conflicting.
Well, it is an example. It is a suggested example, I guess. I don't know. Are we get in trouble if we suggest a number? I mean, you can argue all day about what the number should be from this vantage point, right? But I think the idea is to stress that, that's a criteria that you can use.
No, I agree. It's just that example, it says example 3 to 5 years, it was comma or other criteria such as percentage of growers complying. And that's in agreement with this statement here, but now you've got two statements that sort of conflict with each other.
So maybe we should put or other criteria back in that back in there. After
Yeah.
that.
I'm not sure I see the conflict. I mean, we suggest that there's a time limit on when these criteria are met, but then as the regional boards look at this, they look at, what is the actual compliance rate? And why is the compliance rate lower than perhaps lower than expected? What drives this compliance rate? And then move from there. I don't think that takes away from saying that these iterative processes are fundamentally based on periods of time, not on compliance levels.
And I think the 3 to 5 years is really what we're proposing is after that time should evaluate how growers are doing.
Mhm.
And then later we say if a majority of growers can comply, then they should consider new targets and limits. I think it's slightly different. Here we just say evaluate the situation, and then we say, okay, if the result is that a majority can comply, then new targets and limits should be established.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It maybe clarify, I guess.
So it's an iterative review process. So that's just a review every 3 to 5 years.
Well, maybe since I'm just telling you what was in the letters for the regional boards, one of them, Mary Hamilton, she might have something to say later to clarify what the problem was.
Mm-hmm. So for the moment, shall we keep it? Well, not for the moment, but shall we keep it like this? The question is just, do we got rid of all the percentiles? Should we add 60 percentiles or just say majority and leave it?
I don't feel comfortable prescribing that. That's not my expertise. I don't feel comfortable putting numbers there. I think the general framework is clear and we don't need to be more specific.
Okay.
I agree.
I agree.
But just a majority of growers.
This is a regulatory social science questions that I don't feel comfortable answering specifically.
Well, it seems like it's also an agronomic question that's going to depend so much on regions and crops based on what's feasible.
Mm-hmm. So, but we keep majority of growers.
I agree that that would be important to leave because you can't move forward if you don't have a majority.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Then Ali, you had another comment here about the goal.
I think I like the text we have now. Except, I think because that's about the framework. We say here improve within a specific period of time. I think that's very vague. So do we have any, because do we want to go with it 3 to 5 or just leave it this way?
Which line are you referring to?
I'm referring to 1061.
Aha. Improve within a specific period of time.
It's a little bit vague.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's again. Oh, sorry. I spoke over you. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't think we can determine what that time would be. So maybe we add within a specified period of time identified by the regional boards.
There you go.
That's actually why I put that comment to give it a framework, the regional board work with the modeling, the scientific finding, those kind of things, and they find the time and everything.
So does that address that issue, Ali?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can we leave it at this, or do you have more comments about this section? Okay, let's see.
Um,
Oh,
are we, if we have comment on a part that's not called out here in the comments already, should we save that till the end, or is it okay to look at it now?
about this section here.
Right, this section, it's
Mhm.
actually, my comment is a little farther up and it wasn't noted already, so I don't know if I should,
Yeah.
do I have a just opportunity to quickly, I was reading it over again, and I think when it says targets limits for A-R can be made now, would it be okay to qualify can be made now for crops and systems where information is available?
Which
Just
line
noting
are you referring to?
10.1038. Because I agree that for some systems those can be made now, but for other systems they cannot. And I wonder if we could just clarify can be made now for something, some clarifying phrase can be made now for systems where sufficient information is available or something like that.
So this should really be a summary of what we write below.
You're right. And it's certainly addressed below. I just wondered in the framing if it's okay to add that.
What do others think? Is it okay to leave it? And do we, I mean, it's several points below where we discuss that. So yeah. Oh, what would be your suggestion, Rue?
Oh, Mike has his hand up. I didn't know if
Oh,
you had an
sorry. Let me
additional.
see, Mike.
I would leave it because we do have clarification, and the majority of situations, I mean, you can come up with some value that that's reasonable, right? Right now, I don't know if you always need a whole bunch more research. So anyway, I guess there's enough details below about how you would do that.
Mm-hmm. Ruth, are you fine with it?
Sure. I do think because it's pretty far down where it's qualified, so it would be helpful to have it noted here. Or maybe a shorter version like can be made now for many systems. Or something like that. Just so it's clear that it's not every single system that we're saying it can be made now.
And that's cropping systems.
Many cropping systems.
Many crops and cropping systems.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. And Richard said initial limits. Yeah, I think that's a clarification of what we discussed. And then here, that's also Richard and Hannah. You provided these changes here. I just have one comment. I would delete the quick nitrate test just to, in case, or some growers may prefer a lab analysis or have their own lab. So we don't prescribe or say you can only do the quick nitrate test. Any nitrate test is good. But other than that, I like all the suggestions made here.
I think that makes sense, Daniel. Not to be prescriptive with which test. I think the quick one could be helpful on like for timeliness and especially in season, but yeah.
The
I agree. It makes a lot of sense. I would just like to keep it open.
I guess the thing I'm trying to express there is one of the things used to run into is that people have kind of notions about soil nitrate testing, and they say, oh yeah, I do a test, at the end of the season. I do a test at the beginning of the season, and that's not the right way to do it. And the reason I like that idea of having quick in there is because, the original test that Tim Hartz brought he called it the pre-sidrous nitrate quick test. And the reason he called it quick is because it's most useful right immediately before a fertilizer application. And so in order to do that, it has to be a quick test. Now, so you're probably thinking of, okay, this is, that test where you put it in the tubes and the dipstick and all that. It could still be done by a lab. It just has to be done quickly,
Yeah.
know.
I was thinking about the soil nitrate quick test with the test tube and the color strip. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, and I understand why, because but maybe there's another way to say it, like
Can we find another word or replace quick?
Yeah, like timely, where it's done, like for instance, like if you're doing the test, you don't want to do it before you put water on and then fertilize. You don't want to have something change. Have to do it like, pretty quickly beforehand. Mike, you had your hand up. Do you have a better word?
No, that's the word I was thinking of.
Timely? Okay.
No, yeah, that sounds better. I was really thinking about the color strip when I read the word quick. That's the only thing I could think of. But yeah, timely, that makes much more sense now. Yes, I like it.
Yeah.
That's where I went to, Daniel.
And then here, Richard, you suggested making that 0.5.
Yeah.
Separate point.
Separate point.
Yeah, that sounds good. So does this section look good to everybody? Okay, great. Then, yeah, we don't have much here, but oh yeah, here, Thomas, that's a section you mainly worked on, and we got some comments about it, especially about the additional data required. I tried to reach out to you, but you didn't have email access. So it's a bit hard to see because the team replaced the entire text. I only suggest a few small changes. One would be instead of or delete auditing. I think all the data is really for a better understanding, not necessarily for the public to audit. So that's something we discussed last time, to delete auditing. The second
That's
change.
fine by me.
The second change would be not to require the water budget information. We received a lot of comments that it's really hard to determine, and I have to admit, for example, runoff volume on a crop by crop basis, that would be really hard to determine. So we discussed it last time to do not include the water budget. What do you think about that?
The real hard part about that is that if there's no water budget, we have no idea what concentration we're talking about. We know the mass, but we have no idea what concentration we're talking about. And so even if it's an approximation of that water budget, that's provided by the coalition. For example, in the Central Valley, it would be coming from a SWOT model, or it could be based on interpolated precipitation values from across the region, plus an understanding of the irrigation volume and irrigation in ET is measured on a field scale level anyway. The runoff, I agree, is very difficult, and in most cases in California, maybe there's my irrigation colleagues will scream if I say there's no runoff in California, but there is runoff and there's lots of ag return, but there's return flows. But if those could be approximated, somehow we need to get to a recharge volume so we can consider the mass of nitrogen loss in the context also of a recharge volume and get to some kind of idea of concentrations. I'm not saying this has to be done by growers. I totally agree that would be really hard. So have it be done on a regional basis or have it be done through models, but have some idea of what that water budget is so we can get to a recharge volume.
I think one challenge is we write for each crop or cropping system.
Yeah.
So if you say a water budget for the entire region, although that's still very challenging to do,
yeah.
I believe, but for each crop seems to be very challenging. And here we added that everybody would have to report it, even when they don't use a model.
Yeah. I'll work up something for next week, an alternative proposal on this particular item.
Okay. So that was the second change. The other change I propose is we write additionally in regions where they use a model, we would like to see all this data, the model values, and I propose to add if calculated by the model, simply because the SWOT model, I assume, can calculate all of this, but some regions may decide to use a model, but that does not have a routine to calculate all of these. And I would say we shouldn't tell regions you can only use models that can calculate all of these things. If they find a model that works for them but doesn't calculate change in soil organic matter content, that would still be fine. So I proposed just that if calculated by the model, that wouldn't limit regions to use a model that cannot do all of them. Would you agree to that, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm trying. If calculated by the model, in other regions, like I'm thinking in terms of region 3, for example, a lot of this is then reported, and there it's these numbers are all available on a farm scale basis.
But nitrogen fixation, change in soil organic matter content, nitrogen in runoff.
Yeah.
That's not really data that's available.
No, this makes sense. I mean, if this is about just adding, if calculated by the model, that makes total sense. I'm fine with that.
That would be the only change. Everything else is how you wrote it.
Yeah.
Mike, you had a comment?
Well, going back to, the elimination of all the water information, keep in mind that to figure out how much nitrogen is in the irrigation water, we suggest using ET volume or applied water volume. So would this impact that? And right now, like the Ag Order Region 3 asks for that information.
I don't think that would necessarily impact that. I think this is really separate from those requirements. We're not saying that this should not be reported. We're just, I think the way I understood it is that this would be sort of a list of things to be reported when you're not having fully disclosed all the information in the first place.
Can you remind me of what the purpose of this list is? Is it what I thought it was what?
Yeah, that's a good
growers need to
question,
report.
Michael. And maybe this needs to be clarified. The original purpose of this list was to say, no, we don't really need to have field by field information published for the entire Central Valley. We actually have enough information to understand how much nitrogen gets lost into groundwater, what the variabilities of that nitrogen by cropping systems or by crops. Even in situations where these data are only reported on an anonymized basis. But to really understand it and understand field level variability, we do need data that come from the modeling efforts. And that's this list. So it was specific to, in some ways it was specific to regions that choose a modeling approach to get to nitrogen leaching and choose not to have full transparency on the reported farm nitrogen budgets and farm water management budgets, that there would still be, with the models available, this would be fairly straightforward to produce by the coalitions using the models that they have.
So then we probably would need to move that down, because right now, everybody, the way it's written, everybody, whether they use a model or not, needs to report this. And only afterwards, we say additionally, in regions where they use models, we want to see that. But right now,
I see what you're saying.
The water budget is everybody has to report it, whether they use a model or not. So probably, if you may think, you can think about it, move that to the section where we say those who use a model, the water budget information should be included.
That would make sense.
And then also, should it really be per crop and cropping system or more on a regional scale? That will probably be the other question, how detailed the data should be.
Right.
Can you think about it, and then we can come back to that next time? Okay, great, thanks. And then Mike, the nitrogen added to permanent woody tissue, you mentioned that strawberries and caneberries should be included too.
They are, I guess, well, especially caneberries are multi-year. So, but I get if this is not going to be used on the coast, maybe it doesn't matter. Although they grow some strawberries in the Central Valley.
But strawberries are not really perennial, aren't they? Grown for 1 year only?
Well, some people keep them more than 1 year, and I don't know in the Central Valley what the practice is. But then you have like blueberries too. Those are multi-year. Blackberries, raspberries. It was someone suggested not to limit it to trees and vines, but to say trees, vines, and other perennial crops.
Is that the place to include it? I mean, basically what you're suggesting is that the whole calculation of R needs to be revised, because R at the moment, that's just in woody tissue.
Yeah.
And maybe you're suggesting a complete or an addition of the value for R that.
Well, canes are sort of woody.
Yeah. Although, aren't they cut every year and then the new canes grow, so that a single cane is basically annual?
Yeah, I guess they're not cut down to the ground, especially blackberries. There's some pruning, but like trees have pruning too.
Yes. I'm just wondering, I mean, if we're not making it much more complicated if we include all of this. And then the question is, well, alfalfa is a perennial and it remains. So do we need to add something for alfalfa too? So not sure whether we should really go that far. Are there other opinions or any opinions?
Yeah, I wouldn't be too prescriptive about this for things like alfalfa and strawberries and canes.
Well, you might have
That makes
half
it
the
very difficult.
nitrogen in the canes, I think we did some evaluation. I mean, it falls off the leaves, but same with the trees. We're just talking about permanent,
Longer term.
nitrogen is sequestered in the woody
Yeah.
part, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, I don't quite understand this section, like what the purpose is, but someone, this came from one of the letters that said, hey, please mention other perennial crops.
Would an example here help? E.g. tree, vine, but not to mention not to list out all of them.
But
Well,
here
that's
we
why
are.
I said such as caneberries and strawberry. But maybe you can leave out strawberry and just put caneberry.
Let's see, where is it next? Here, tree, vine, and other perennials.
I think that works.
No. I mean, R is about woody tissue, so if we include caneberries, then, well, it would have to be determined. Or, yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't build a house out of caneberries, but it's pretty much locked up in the canes.
what about that? Permanent woody tissue, tree, vines, and other perennial tissue.
And that's why I would write grapevine instead of just vine, so you don't think it's, cucumber vine or something like that. just grape would be fine.
Or not to make it more complicated, but kiwis.
Well,
What
is that
about
considered a wine too?
woody? Can we do woody vines or something?
Well, it's woody tissue.
Yeah.
So tree and vine.
Yeah,
is
other perennial works.
another perennial tissue in case there is a thing it's not woody. Does that solve the issue, Mike?
Sure. I mean,
Okay, let's move on then. We discussed that. Oh yeah, we discussed that last time too. We got a comment from the State Water Board that what we write here is incorrect. I checked with Eric Warren and he told me that no, what we are writing is correct. So in the Central Valley, only the plant available nitrogen in organic amendments and manure is counted. He mentioned that the word discount is not used. So that's why I changed this sentence slightly. Instead of these discounted amounts, I propose to write the amounts of plant available N that are included in the irrigated lands regulatory program. But other than that, we can keep it the way it was. We don't have to change that. It's correct. And then Richard, you suggested another sentence. I think that makes a lot of sense. We can add it. And you also added Patricia's study. The one thing I suggest adding it just as an example, just in case other studies or there will be new data and others may come up with better estimates, or I really doubt that, but you never know. So to just add it as an example, and not that's the study everybody should base their estimates on. So what does everybody think? These additions, is it okay?
I think this all looks really good.
Mm-hmm. Thomas, thanks. Okay, let's move on then. Don't have much here. Mike, you suggested instead of crediting N in irrigation water, accounting for throughout the section here.
Because other places we talk about cover crops as like credits. But this is more about budget accounting, nutrient budget accounting.
I like this.
Makes a lot of sense to me too. Okay, we'll change that. And then again here, that's just the same. So we use the same terminology. Okay, and then we come to small and diversified farms. We discussed the 80 acres last time, and Ruth, you made good suggestions here. Could you briefly give us an overview of the additions you added or the corrections?
Sure. And I'd like to make some more corrections after this meeting for the final report, because I had some conversations with some of the people who provided public comment letters. So I think I have a better sense now of what their concerns were. So, you know, I think the way it reads right now, I think people see the 80 acres and it's worrisome that there are many farms that are 80 acres or less that wouldn't be considered as a low threat to water quality. But I want to encourage everyone to read the entire definition. I think more than 2 crops per acre cuts out a lot of farms that would be of concern. But I think that it could be defined more specifically. So what I'd like to do is work on it a little bit more. I do think one of the comments was people wanted to see what do other programs define small farms as, or small diversified farms. Unfortunately, CDFA is not going to have their small farms definition out for California until probably next year, I think. So we could cite that and say that it's pending. There are varying definitions for small farms, not just small diversified farms, but small farms across different regulatory programs. I have a slide that I can share if there's interest, but I can also summarize it for next time in a few sentences, or maybe just a short, some short descriptions. Sometimes it's based on low threat, like for food safety. It's based on local produce being more traceable and less of a risk for food safety outbreaks. Sometimes it's based on equity and wanting to not exclude or disadvantage farms with lower resources. Sometimes it's based on diversity, sometimes diversity of crops. So I can give a little bit more of an overview there. I think one of the points that came up in the discussions, which was not reflected in the text here, was the 2 crops per acre. It needs to be clarified that it's simultaneously 2 crops per acre, not 2 crops per acre one season and then 1 crop in one season and then another season with another crop, simultaneously or within the same cropping season, something like that. And so that, yeah, go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, and then are you saying for like if there's an 80-acre farm, your definition would then say it would be called diversified if it has at least 160 different crops simultaneously growing on these 80 acres?
Well, and those could be, it's a little bit complicated, and that's why I think it needs a little more work, because a lot of farms in this category have many more than 2 crops per acre. They have like 3 rows of multiple crops. Most of those are less than 80 acres, but 80 acres is kind of the maximum. So what we're trying to distinguish between is farms that have larger blocks of individual crops. So let's say there's a farm that grows organic stone fruit for farmers markets, and it's 80 acres, and then there's 5-acre blocks of apricots and plums and peaches, and those are probably going to be managed as individual crops. So that wouldn't qualify, right? That doesn't have enough crops, and those crops are probably being managed individually. Or a farm with specialty niche vegetables that's selling to wholesale markets. So let's say I've got a 30-acre farm, and my 30-acre farm has 5 acres of bok choy and 3 acres of lemongrass and 4 acres of Thai chili. I'm going to manage the Thai chili as Thai chili. I'm going to manage the lemongrass as lemongrass. But if I sell to farmers markets or CSAs or other really direct markets that have a lot of diversity of crops, then I have 3 rows of bok choy, but I have another 3 rows that might be staggered over different months. Then I have 3 rows of parsley, 3 rows of bell peppers, 3 rows of lemongrass, 3 rows of carrots. And it's managed on a whole farm basis rather than a per crop basis, because everything is so mixed up and so rotated and so combined that it doesn't make sense to say, well, for this 3 acres of bok choy that I planted on February 5th, this is how much nitrogen I applied. Now for this 3 acres of bok choy that I planted on February 12th, this is how much, can you imagine? I have known farmers that tried to do this, and they were filling out 80 different forms for their irrigated lands reporting.
Right.
And
So
that's what we're trying to distinguish between.
Yeah. So you're saying that 80 acres doesn't need 160 different crops. The 80 acres may have 30 different crops, not meeting that 2-for-1 limit. But on each acre of those 80 acres, you have 15 crops, because
That's right.
they're doing
That's
it.
Right.
They got their big scheme and maybe hanging on
That's
the
right.
wall on how they manage it, but there's just no way to. And there's, from my perspective, looking at discharge to groundwater, it doesn't need to be reported at that granular level, because if you
Right.
can get to a balance at a 40-acre or 80-acre scale, you still understand the main driver for nitrate pollution in groundwater, if there is any.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So I'd like to make that a little more clear for next time. I'll definitely add the grown simultaneously. I think the other thing I wanted to point out is that there were some comments that said this would be great because we have so many small diversified farms in our area. And then there are other comments where people said this would be a problem because we have so many small diversified farms in our area. And I want to be really clear, it's not about the number of farms or the proportion or the acreage within a basin or a reporting area. It's about the way nitrogen is managed, no matter how many farms there are. So that's why I added that comment on 2229 to 2234, that it's really just to note, it's not based on there's not that many of these farms. It's based on they have different methods of managing nutrients. So so maybe that's clearer. I also wanted to comment on, there were several comment letters that wanted to add a term, are diversified, which would be like, like the credits for cover crops and compost up in the other section. That would be specifically for nitrogen, being able to calculate nitrogen removed from diversified farms. And that is an interesting idea, and I think it's reflected a bit in the research recommendations of trying to find average values or ranges for A and R for diversified farms instead of per crop values. The difficulty, though, with these kinds of very diversified farms is that you still have to calculate the yield and have a number of pounds or tons. And these are farms where often produce is not sold by weight, and so it's not being weighed and yield calculated in that same way as it would be for wholesale markets, because it's direct markets where it's being sold by bunches of parsley at a farmer's market, or other metrics that don't involve weighing the produce. So other than that, I think that our diversified farm term is interesting, and it could be a long-term research objective. So I just wanted to mention that because I think it was in 3 comment letters. Are there any comments on how this is written here, and what is it all right if I keep working on it for the final meeting based on the conversations and the public comment letters?
Mm-hmm. What shall I do until next time, or I will send out or I will accept all the changes? Shall I accept all your suggestions here and then you will work on it, or shall I keep it as in track changes mode? What do you prefer?
If you don't mind accepting it, that would make it simpler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Great. And we'll get to more of your comment. Oh, sorry, Ruth,
Sam,
do you have more about this section here?
Sam raised
Sam
his
has
hand.
a hand up.
Oh, yeah, Sam.
Oh, I was just wondering, given that the meeting is next Friday, if there are additional comments, I'm wondering if we can just use a similar system to what we did last time.
Yep.
And really defer to all of you, but maybe get comments in back to staff and myself. We can compile everything and then send out, a clean version in advance of, or a track change version in advance of your meeting on the 5th. Would that be acceptable?
I think that's the best way forward. Yes, I will accept all the changes and send you the clean version on Friday. And then you can forward it to the panel.
Okay, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm. Mike, you have a comment?
Well, the 2 crops per acre sort of confuses me. Could you just change it to crops with an area of less than a half acre? Planted on less than a half acre or something like that. Because I keep confusing that with, like a rotation over the season.
Yeah. So could it read basically the inverse of the fraction of with crops grown in plots of less than I don't know. Let me think about that, because you can also have farms that have diversified sections and then maybe larger blocks here and there. So
Well, a majority of the crops grown less than half-acre plots. Something like that.
that could work. So with the majority, I guess, are we defining the majority? Is that over 50%? With over 50, let's try it out. With over 50% of crops grown on plots of less than of half an acre or less. I might want to run this by a
change
few
it, or is
people.
it something you'll think about till next time?
Yeah, let me think about it. I don't want to just make this up on the spot. So
yeah, okay.
But yeah, this is the task, though, is to distinguish between the really diversified farms and farms that have multiple crops but in larger blocks that are managed individually.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a suggestion that I'll just throw out in the conversation I had to have some kind of tier within this 80-acre range where let's say the first tier is 0 to 30 or 0 to 40 acres. And then if you go down to those list of 10 management practices, that you would have to meet more of those out of those 10 if you were into the larger range, if you were 40 to 80 acres. So that was an interesting idea that maybe we could throw that out for discussion. Could you scroll down a little bit to the 10 practices below?
Yeah, just may I briefly, before we move on, Mike, you had a comment here. I didn't quite understand what you meant here.
I think this was, a suggestion in one of the letters that I don't know if this is the part where you're also talking about alternative reporting, but to take into consideration the risk of nitrogen loading to groundwater. It was a suggestion. I said, I don't think we need to add it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
then, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay,
And
thanks for the clarification. These are the 10 points, Ruth, you mentioned.
Okay. And one other thing I'll add in my additions for next time is back to Mike's comment about the regional definition. I can add some additional criteria that regions could use to further define a small diversified farm. So this section 5, where there's the 10 factors, the suggestion was have the first tier of smaller farms, smaller diversified farms, with some cutoff of maximum acreage under 80, like 30 or 40 maybe, that then you have to, let's say you have to make 3 out of 10 or 5 out of 10 of these categories, of these factors. And then for the 40 to 80 acre range, maybe you have to meet more of them if you're larger. So I think that's interesting. I wanted to know what other people would think about that on the panel, having sort of a tier within the 80-acre range where it was sort of a smaller scale meeting a fewer number of these 10, and then a larger tier maybe needing to meet more of these to show that they have a minimal impact on water quality.
Mm-hmm. So you would add that here, meaning a selected minimum number
Right.
of the 10 criteria, possibly the number being subject to the number of acres or something like that.
Right. So it scales that the larger the farm is towards the 80-acre maximum, the more criteria it would need to meet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can add language to indicate that, but I wanted to know if there was support for that from the other panel members, or if there are any other comments.
And I agree. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I like this idea, Ruth. Did you, just to clarify, so it would be like, or actually, maybe this is a question for Thomas. Thomas, didn't early on, and perhaps somewhere in this document, you indicated like a scale at which an acreage at which we should consider exempt. Do you remember? Am I?
Yes, I did this. Well, I'm not sure that I was considering an exempt acreage so much as a scale at which understanding nitrogen budgets and understanding nitrogen leaching becomes important, which is sort of in that 10 to 80 acre range, as opposed to something that's much less than the 40 to 80 acres. When you have these diversified farms where things happen on very small scale, even if it does happen over 40 acres, having an understanding of what happens on those 40 acres overall and what the overall nitrogen leaching is from those 40 acres would still allow us to, understand hotspots relative to typical source areas of public supply wells or even domestic wells.
Yeah, I like, thank you for that clarification. I was just trying to remember what you said in relation to what Ruth is saying. And given that, I like this idea, Ruth. I don't know like what the cutoff is, 3 practices for smaller scale and but I like the general idea.
Okay, so could you add something for next time, Ruth, and then we can have a look at it.
Great, thank you.
Right.
I added that note also to clarify it's not about the number of farms.
Any comments about this? Okay, then let's move on. That's something we discussed last time. And then Ruth, that's another comment here.
That's from the public comment, that there was a note that if we are not talking about strict limits anywhere else above, maybe we should standardize this so that we're not using that language of a strict limit, but that it's based on current practices that already limit nitrogen applications.
Any comments on that, or is it okay?
I pasted the text in from the public comment and then I kind of modified it a little bit. So yeah, see what you think about how that reads.
Yeah. Okay, if there are no comments, we can move on.
Sorry, I have one other quick comment on this section. There was some additional data provided also in the public comments that there was a survey done on 46 wine grape growers in the North Coast. And we could reference that and add some of that data there if that's appropriate.
Let's see. You can add it as a reference, yeah.
Okay.
And then we add it to our list of references.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that for the final version.
Okay. Mike, you had a comment here for nurseries.
This was just in one of the letters that said, we wrote affordable, effective monitoring systems. Do you have any examples to put in?
That would be, I think that would be a good thing to have. I'm not sure. I don't have any information on this. I'm not sure why we wrote it this way, but there was some information provided maybe from some of the presentations, but I would agree with Michael that it would be good to reference some examples.
Who could find some examples for next time?
Thomas, do you want to work on that with me, or? I mean, I imagine like suction lysimeters or something like that.
What I'm wondering is what, if we're looking at examples, it would be, was there among the presentations in the fall on the nurseries, were there some examples where this was done at a larger scale? Like at a nursery scale? As opposed to the bed scale? I think all we would need is a couple of references where this has actually been done, as opposed to designing it here. I mean, I think and if these things don't exist, then we just delete the sentence.
Mike and Thomas, in the Preservation Inc. letter, they talked about some alternative reporting methods for nurseries. They have seen measuring some forms of R have been useful, but they didn't really say what they were. I guess we could contact them and find out what they've seen, but I'm willing to do that if you'd like.
Yeah, I think the concern here was about, do we know anything about groundwater impacts? And have groundwater impacts actually been measured from nursery systems?
So, who wants to come up with some examples here or try to find examples of monitoring systems, specifically in nurseries?
Well, for example, if they were monitoring effluent and didn't have much nitrogen in it, and they knew the volume, that would be a monitoring system.
Can you come up with some examples for next time, Mike?
I can
and reach out to
with
me.
our
nursery
farm advisors. Maybe they have some concrete.
And I think it would be great if anybody in the audience knows about groundwater monitoring systems on nurseries to inform. Let Michael know, and Michael, I can work with you on that.
Okay.
Okay, Mike and Thomas. Okay, great. Then let's continue. We discussed salt turf grass last time, so we added this sentence here or two sentences here. Is that okay with everybody to have that as an addition, separate from nurseries? Okay, then Mike, you had a comment here about the revised version from Ali.
Yeah, I mean, I read different letters, one from the San Diego region, one from the lower Colorado Basin, Rito Board, and And it seemed like they were suggesting, over in the San Diego region to just keep it to, if in the case that any watershed or basin, the groundwater is established not to have beneficial uses, then you could have alternative reporting, monitoring, and compliance pathways. And I talked with Ali since we were working together last week about it. So, we're trying to work out maybe some better language. And the letter, that came from the region where Imperial Valley is, specifically asked that Imperial Valley not be named in this section too. So, I guess this is about getting having exemptions, right? Or alternative reporting requirements, and it makes sense. I mean, what San Diego County was, or not San Diego County's regional board there was suggesting that for specific watersheds that it's found that the water is not beneficially used, the groundwater, then you could have alternative reporting. That seems reasonable, but you still have to establish area or a watershed doesn't have beneficial uses, and that's through monitoring. And I think this other part is that, what Ali is writing here is that the cost shouldn't all be on the shoulders of the growers. It should be finding grants and working with the state for the monitoring costs. So I think he came up with some text there that sort of combines those two ideas together.
So do you agree we can leave it the way it is written now? It's very, very. So it can include San Diego. We just say certain regions of California, including the Imperial Valley, but we don't exclude any other region. So San Diego, if they can also qualify for adapted monitoring and implementation approaches. So I like Ali's version here, the way it is written.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you might, instead of having, you're not talking about the whole region, but maybe in watersheds and basins where the groundwater has been found to have limited or
regions or watersheds.
That's up in the first sentence too. It says in regions and
in basins or watersheds.
Basins or watersheds, yeah.
Region, basins.
Yeah, not regions. Basins or watersheds.
It
can be within a region,
Basins or watersheds. Okay. Yep. Does that address all the concern we have about this section?
I think there needs to be one more change on the beneficial use, because that's such a legally charged word. I think we need to just say the beneficial use is there, but it might not be exercised, right? Groundwater may have the beneficial use of drinking water, but nobody might have a well in the aquifer. And I think we want to say where groundwater use is currently non-existent or exceedingly limited, rather than where beneficial use is limited.
Well, could you say currently no beneficial use has been established or something like that?
No beneficial uses have been established. The beneficial use designation is in the regional. I assume the beneficial use designation, like in Imperial Valley, is in the basin plan for the regional water boards. That's essentially that's the basis of what they're operating on. And all groundwater bodies and all surface water bodies are identified in these water plans, and all of them have, and this is critical to the water plans, at the basin plans, all of these water bodies have lists of beneficial uses associated with them. So that's essentially what drives water quality regulation, in my understanding. So you identify your water bodies, including your groundwater basins, you attach beneficial uses to them. Whether people are actually doing it or not is secondary, but potential beneficial uses are listed in it, and that's, in my understanding, regardless of whether there's one well doing it or whether there is 100,000 wells doing it. I think the point here that Ali is trying to make is that in Imperial Valley, there's very little groundwater use, which is not to say that the beneficial use of that groundwater has been established. So in basins or watersheds where groundwater use is currently very limited, and I would just not touch beneficial use.
Use is currently limited.
Very limited.
Do you need where extensive engineering, subsurface tile drainage and managed surface drainage systems, all that there, or just say is currently very limited?
We need to have that because Farm Bureau, I send, the Farm Bureau county letter. I think that's the bullet point for them. They want to work with the region. It makes a difference for them in the future. If they can provide some data shows those extensive subsurface drain protects actually the groundwater. They are working with, I think they want to work with regional board on that. I think that's the bullet point for them. They strongly defend it in their comment letter. I send it to you. I send it to you. All have it. The Farm Bureau, Imperial County. So please read it. I think their argument is very strong.
Ali, would it make sense instead of and where extensive engineered subsurface tile drainage, right? Or where extensive engineered subsurface tile drainage? Or make it and/or?
Yeah.
I'll just point out the letter, from Region 7 said, in the case, there's watersheds that are found not to have beneficial use. So they're the ones who wrote that. And there should be alternative reporting if I interpret what they wrote correctly. So
that's a good question, Michael. If there's a groundwater body and that doesn't have drinking water and irrigation water as a designated beneficial use, if it's de-designated,
I think there's a process, for doing that, and it was
exactly
explained to us from Region 9 that if you want to say a water body, groundwater is has no beneficial uses, you got to do monitoring to figure that out.
Yeah,
but we had that, and we were strongly disencouraged to include that because that's a policy decision, and we should not make that. So the designation, we had that in it at one point, and we took it out because it was not acceptable. Karen, you can chime in.
Yeah, I had dropped off the meeting and I'm back. I can't start my video, but I hope you can hear me. I wanted to just clarify that the basin plan is not where the groundwater beneficial uses are designated typically. It's the sources of drinking water policy. That's a state water board resolution. I am not remembering the number, that sets some criteria for what any exemption is. It just assumes that all groundwater is a source of drinking water unless it meets certain exceptions. And so, and you're right, you're going down the right path. You would have to do a de-designation in order to de-designate groundwater as a source of drinking water. Just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we shouldn't go there. Can we leave it the way it is?
I try to do the best actually to write it very fair and not any conflicts. Don't create conflicts. I think the way it is, it should be fine.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Thomas, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Ngudu and Ruth. Ngudu first.
I think line 2535 has beneficial use as well, so we might want to take it out from there.
2535. Ah, yes. Let's see.
I think that part should be fine because that's the language perhaps the regional board uses.
Okay.
They support perhaps that's their concern, I think.
Again, maybe I think we can take beneficial out of that wording.
For future use.
Yeah.
Future use, yeah.
Yes, that works. Ngudu, does it work for you too?
Yeah, no, that works.
Great. Ruth? You're still mute.
Sorry, I only raised my hand because I thought we were done with this section, and I have a question about the section right above it. But if we're okay. Yeah,
Yes.
that section on the organic farms, I just wanted to note the public comment from CCOF that said it would be possible to use the organic system plan or OSP to document which management practices farmers are using, and that getting at that question of, is it an organic farm with input substitution or an organic farm that's really building soil carbon and soil health? So if it's okay, I could add a comment somewhere in there just to reference that as a potential way of documenting those different types of farms.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that for next time.
I think there isn't that much left. That's just for R.
Hey, Daniel,
Yes.
can you go, let's see, well, in the old numbering, there was 2697. I don't know what numbering it is now, but there's just a little thing about the nitrate test. 26.
Is it under research?
No, I think it's. Oh, I'm not sure.
Or best
No,
man?
it's in the-
Best man.
it's well, yeah, I don't know where it goes now because everything I think is different. Go to 2697. Let's see if it's there. Anyway, it was just about the nitrate quick test. Just one little correction. That the test should be done immediately prior to a fertilizer application.
Yeah. How does that sentence start, or the bullet point? How does it start?
It was after beginning of question 5. I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go.
In this section here.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, the soil nitrate test. Okay.
Prior to nitrogen fertilizer applications.
Yeah. Yes. And then it says, okay, there's a couple things in this paragraph. There was that. The soil nitrate quick test conducted immediately prior to a fertilizer event provides information, so that you can just insert that. And then, yeah. And then, yeah, there you go, thanks. And then down below on line 26, 24, where it says plant tissue testing, it should say row crop plant tissue testing.
Is it only row crops?
Well, you can correct me if I got this wrong, but because this sentence does not apply to trees and vines, and so that's what we have to fix. And so well, I know vegetable crops. Plant tissue testing is not a substitute for soil testing, so that's accurate. I don't know if all row crops that's true. But however, where did I put that? In tree and vine crops, tissue testing provides effective diagnostic of the nitrogen and other nutrient status and can be used to guide fertility programs. If you want, I could write that in and send it to you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the moment, soil testing is not common in orchards, but I'm not so sure whether it should not be done, because plant tissue testing helps determine deficiency, but it's really not a good indicator of excess nitrogen because it flattens off. So I do wonder whether in some orchard systems it would make sense to take soil nitrate tests as well.
Okay.
It's not done, I know, but I'm not so sure whether that means it shouldn't be done.
Yeah. Well, somehow we have to fix that because we got a comment about that that statement with regards to trees and vines. And
I read it, yeah, that it's not common, but I'm just not sure. It's not common because it's probably challenging to do, but I'm not so sure whether it would not make sense to start taking soil samples, especially when you have sandier soils. It may be really valuable because plant tissue testing only tells you whether you're a deficient and need to add more, but not whether you have excess N.
Okay. Well, I defer to you on that one, Daniel, because you know more about it than I do. All I know is that we got some feedback on that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should look into it more, or do you think that's fine the way it is, or can we tweak it to make it more relevant to trees and vines?
I think it's fine. And it's just a recommendation for.
Okay.
It's not a recommendation about regulation. It's a recommendation to improve irrigation nitrogen management practices. In my opinion, it's fine.
Okay, let's go with your opinion then. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. So let's see. Thomas, I'd like to I mentioned it last time. So you asked the water board to put together a list of extension activities and ask whether to add it to an appendix. That list is 46 pages long, and my impression was it is too long and it's not a really good list when you look at it. So I would prefer not to include it in this report, but instead just have the sentence that they did, or acknowledging that education and outreach efforts have been made, they're valuable and should be continued. I don't know, Thomas, how important is it for you to add that's a 46-page list of extension activities to our report? Yeah, Thomas? You're mute.
All right, there we go.
Mhm.
Sorry, I had to switch phone. I actually have to run here off for just a few minutes. I had asked for that list because I think we refer to technical training and outreach as a really important part of compliance. And I think we need to have an accounting for, and this has been requested in some comments, for what actually has been done and what these outreach efforts have looked like to this point. I would at least include it as an appendix and then maybe have a short summary at this place in terms of the number of meetings, the people that have been reached, how frequent they are, and maybe have a discussion next time whether we think this is appropriate. And many of you are working in outreach and extension, whether this is an appropriate level of engagement with growers to reach the targets that we're needing to reach, or whether this needs to be, there needs to be less or more of it if we want to really get to where we need to be in this program.
Is it really our job in this report to document on 46 pages these activities? Isn't that something the coalitions or the water board should be put up on their websites?
I think it would be good to have it all in one place. I'm not suggesting it needs to be inside the report. If it's an appendix, I think that's all that's needed, but I think it would be good to have it in the report to document that we've seen this and to have a summary here to show that we understand what the outreach efforts have been.
What about just adding a 1 or 2 page summary in our report, not the whole thing? I mean, if you think about it, our response to the questions is shorter than the 46 pages you would like to add. And that's kind of, it's just disproportional, in my opinion, to add all of that to our report.
I see what you're saying.
If our report were 1,000 pages, yeah, then 46 isn't such a big deal, but adding the whole thing, and it's not even complete.
No, I think I was thinking of these appendices as extra materials. If it's going to be inside of this report, I agree that there should be a half-page summary of what's in these 46 pages.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Would you mind working on that? Short summary? Thomas, you're mute.
I have trouble unmuting myself, Daniel. Yes, I can work on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I got to run for a few minutes, sorry. I'll be right back.
Sam, you have a comment?
Oh, I just wonder, in addition to that short half-page summary that Thomas is developing, perhaps it could be hosted on, the Ag Panel website and just linked to the full document. I don't know if that's possible or helpful, but.
Yes, I think so. I think the problem is I followed the link we were provided, but I couldn't find it anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it should be in a place where it remains. If people read our report in a year or two, they should still be able to find it.
Yeah.
I think that's the main challenge. But if the water board can find a place where it will still be accessible in a year or two, then that would be the perfect solution. Yes. Okay, then we have a section about evaluation and implementation, and Richard suggested adding the following text here, and that's I added it today.
Yeah.
So nobody has seen this edition yet.
Do you want me to just read it, Daniel?
Yeah, or
Okay.
background.
Throughout this report, the expert panel makes recommendations that will mostly be enacted by regional boards, coalitions, but regional boards. As a result, it seems prudent that we state that resources for extra support and staff in regional technical advisory committees be allocated to follow up on the suggestions that have been made. In addition, given all the input received by the expert panel on the issues of nitrate contamination in drinking water in communities in the state, we feel that extra resources allocated to the regional board can facilitate a sense of urgency to the work recommended by the expert panel. Can you go up a little bit?
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Let's see, where did it go? We think that an all hands on deck type of effort is needed by the regional boards to address the nitrate and groundwater issue, and that with additional staff and technical expertise, this type of an approach can be achieved. So basically the point being is that this is maybe kind of a reflection, just thinking on all the good work that we've done, that thinking that a lot of it's going to land in the lap of the regional boards, and they might need extra staff to do some of the things that we're suggesting. We think there should be technical input for the regional boards so that they make good decisions. And if that's not provided, then the work, the follow-up to all these recommendations may be rather slowed down, and we'd like to see it not to be the case. And so that's where that came from.
What do others think about this addition?
It's basically a plea to the State Water Board to somehow find the money to help out these regions to do this work.
Mike?
Well, I think it's a good point. Can you remind me what section this is in?
It is under evaluation and implementation.
Yeah.
And I put it here because first we mentioned that funding is needed for research and technical assistance. And so that it fits. I had the impression it fits well here if we want to include it.
Yeah, I agree.
Other comments or thoughts about it? Not sure, Thomas, have you raised your hand or is it still up? Do you have a comment about that?
I think his hand is just still up. I'll lower it.
Is it still up? Okay. Shall we include that? Ngudu?
I really like this addition, Richard. I think it's like a good summary of what we have there. When I see the language around extra staff support and regional technical advisory committees, I think that will help a lot with the growers. And then you have the drinking water communities. And having worked with many of these communities, the extra staff support and technical advisory committees, I don't see it doing much for the communities. I know there's some programs providing replacement drinking water for them because of the level of contamination of nitrates. Yeah, I'm thinking through this. So I think it's a good sort of concluding statement for our report.
And just to be clear, it's support staff for the regional boards to do all these iterations, all these things that we're asking them to do. Not necessarily in the communities.
So no opposition. Shall we keep it? Ali?
Well, I agree, whatever we can recommend here. But if it's just for the regional board, I think the board is doing that. Why we should recommend it? I think that's the job they are doing. If it's for the regional boards, I think the State Water Control Board is doing that. So do we need to recommend that to them? Because it doesn't go to the community, it doesn't help coalition, it doesn't help those. I don't know. Just I thought after your clarification, Richard, I don't know if you should do that. I thought you are, supporting for more support for the coalition or the community or those kind of things. Because the regional boards are part of the State Water Control Board, and they know how to deal with them and how to provide their support and technician and advisory committee, those kind of things.
Yeah, I guess I'm just feeling like I'm not sure. I don't really know if they're going to have the resources they need, because we are asking them to do, additional activity. So anyway, it's just, that was just the thought.
Good.
I like keeping this in, and I would feel comfortable adding. There's a need for state resources for all of the things we recommend, and including technical assistance. If you compare this program to other regulatory programs, there's basically no dedicated statewide funding for technical assistance. It's all based on the member fees that are collected by the coalitions, and then the coalitions or third parties do technical assistance. A lot of it's being provided in kind without support. And yeah, that bullet point is good. We're not charged with talking about funding, but it's clearly necessary to enact what we're doing. And I think that is maybe, for the legislature to consider, and maybe it's worthwhile putting it in for that purpose. Because of course, everyone's going to need resources to manage this well. There were some things in the public comment letters also about the lack of funding for technical assistance. If you compare that to some other regulatory programs like the Food Safety Modernization Act, there have been millions of dollars in federal funding in the past for food safety technical assistance to help growers get into compliance with the Food Safety Modernization Act. And there's not anything like that for this program. So I think it's worth putting in, and maybe we could add, and I see it is above in that other bullet point. I think the all hands on deck applies to the other bullet points too, I guess, to the bullet point above. And I like how it's stated. So maybe there's a way to note that as well.
So what are you suggesting, a change or?
Maybe we could combine those two into one recommendation that, additional funding is needed. If we did that, then we might expand the first sentence, because I think it's I think resources are needed by the regional boards as well as the coalitions or third parties and technical assistance providers. So we could either put it all together, or we could put the bullet point in 2926. We could put that below the current one and say similarly. And then it has the force of Richard's argument. And then it continues that into this is also needed for research and technical assistance.
Mhm.
Actually, when I was thinking about where to add it, I wanted to mention this first because I think that's a very important point and much more broader. So my intention was to make this point first, but I'm not opposed to switching the two. But I thought for me it's even more important that we have funds for technical assistance and help growers meet or do best management practices. So if I had to rank these two bullet points, I think both are important, but the first is, in my opinion, a bit more important because there are a lot of things that the regional boards cannot do or should not do.
Well, what if would it be okay to add some language to the first bullet point about research and technical assistance to kind of match some of the urgency of the second bullet point? I could work on that if that's what people want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So Daniel, I think,
Yes, Ali.
well, I think overall I agree with, such a statement, but we need to also be very careful with this here. I think if we can justify that, maybe we can bring, line 2936 and improve it on the early of this statement, justify for what the panel says something like that, because the people read this, they need to understand why we recommend that, because everything is about improvement, regulation, those kind of things. And at the last minute, we are thinking about the structure and support and budget inside the regulatory program. I think if you don't justify that sentence in the beginning, I don't know how people they interpret it. That's why the way I interpret that. Let's justify it first, because the panel sees there is needs and resources to support regional board for those kind of things, and then recommend. Otherwise, when you read it, maybe the community says, oh, they do it, that's not your really business.
Mm-hmm.
We need to eliminate that part from the statement or interpretation.
I just had an idea. What about if we write it like this? First, we need write about technical assistance, then the board, and then make a general statement about the resources that are needed. So not just all hands on deck really includes everybody, not just the regional boards. How would that look like?
I like it.
I like it, Daniel.
Yeah, it's good.
And
It's better. It's better than before.
Yeah, I think it's good. And then the other thing that if we can slip it in there is, there has to be, at working in our work that we've done, we would get funds from FREP and from the, what is it? The specialty crop program and all of these things. We did all this work, and it was, it'd be nice if somehow there was, it was more kind of organized rather than haphazard, getting those funds, like if there is some kind of program, there kind of is, a FREP kind of is that, but maybe just stating that we also need the researchers to be doing their work, coming up and evaluating new technologies and practices. And that has been a big part of the role of the university. And so if we can slip that in there too, Daniel.
Would it be here funding for increased research?
Yeah, but
Except
if it
Daniel,
could be stronger in some way,
Uh-huh.
expanded, maybe make it, yeah. No, it's there, you're right, but somehow, I guess what I see is that, like FREP has been fantastic, in funding
Mm-hmm.
this kind of work.
See.
And maybe that is the pool of money. I don't know. Maybe, and if,
No, sorry.
and they do seem to be very open to funding this kind of work. And so maybe that is the source.
Mm-hmm. Ali, you had a comment?
yes, Daniel, I think this is good, but except maybe we should do some clarification in the second paragraph when it starts from 2933. I think that's vague actually, because you don't connect it to no one or no organization here. You mean regional board or coalition or which additional? I think something is missing there.
So should yes, so basically define what we mean, what all hands include. Gudu, you have an idea how to address that?
No, I don't. I have a similar comment as Ali. I think it's a bit disconnected. The first line where we mention communities, and then the next statement we say we feel extra resources can facilitate a sense of urgency. When I read that through the community lens, I'm thinking about an urgency to provide maybe safe drinking water for them. And I don't think that's what we're talking about here. So I think it's a bit disconnected because if I read the communities and it says there's few extra resources, and I'm thinking those resources are going to the communities. What is needed now from all the letters? What they are saying, most of the environmental justice is stricter limits. So I don't know if that's what we're referring to by extra resources. Some folks talk about replacement drinking water, but that line reads to me like resources going to the community to facilitate the sense of urgency they have with contaminated water. So that's another angle that I'm reading that through.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I see. It's a good point. Ali? Oh. Richard, do you have a good solution how we can improve that? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like I liked your idea, Daniel. If you could format it in the way that you described it, and then I'd be happy to work on it some more to get some more clarity because it is not in my mind, this is not intended to, provide drinking water. That's not the idea of this. This is to make this whole exercise that we're engaged in, to give the people that are going to enact it the resources that they need. That's the bottom line.
So could you look at it again and make some suggestions for next time?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, Mike's got a solution right here. What is it, Mike?
Oh yeah, Mike.
Well, I would write it, it says, in addition, given all the input received by the expert panel on contamination of water in the communities, we feel that an all hands on deck type of effort is needed to address the nitrate in groundwater issue, and extra resources and staff and technical expertise is warranted. Something like that.
That sounds really good, Mike.
Uh-huh. Gudu, what do you think? Is it clearer now?
I'm reading.
No rush.
I don't think you need
I
this
think
type
this,
of approach can be achieved. Just say is needed or something like that.
I think this clarifies. This is a bit better because the other language was following the communities. So I like Michael's suggestion here. What I would
And
say is separating the bullet points, I think takes away from Richard's initial points that we have given so many recommendations to the regional boards. So we're asking for these resources and technical assistance to support them with all those new recommendations we're giving them. So it takes away a bit from it, but I think it's good language right now.
Shall we keep it like this for the moment, or does it work?
Well, I think it does, and I'll ruminate on it, but I'd like to also include that 29, 26, that paragraph somehow, the way you framed it, Daniel, I can't write it down because I don't remember exactly, but it sounded good to me. If maybe you and I could work on this.
Yes.
So just one point, Richard, when you are working on this, if you can integrate these two together is better than two. Because the main point, perhaps dividing into two, it doesn't make sense to me. It should be in one strong, yeah, if you can.
So funding and throughout 1 point.
Yeah, 1 point.
Like this.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Sorry, just a quick note. Mike, I think you and Thomas were signed up around some of the language on nurseries. So that kind of precludes joining an additional team for Bagley-Keene rules and everything.
So Richard and I are going to work on this.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so then let's keep it like this for the moment, and we may come up with some changes. And I think with that, we are done. And Thomas, we haven't made any changes to chapter 6. And there were some comments about it. I had the impression nothing really pressing, but if you see something about chapter 6, so we haven't discussed chapter 6 at all last week. Yeah, that's it.
Thomas does have a hand up.
Sam, I just wanted to say I'm back at my computer and I don't have any access to any of the tools. I can't turn my camera on or anything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else we should discuss today? Otherwise, we have a few homework assignments for next time. So the plan is I will accept all the changes we discussed and then send a clean document to Sam and the water board team. They can send it to the entire group. And so for next time, I would just keep suggestions for changes as small as possible so that we can really finish next time. So that needs to be the goal next Friday, that we can finish our discussion. So I hope I personally hope we won't have a lot of additional comments that you make and for next time. But these few sections we discussed and I wrote them down. We're going to work on them and then we can discuss them at our next meeting on Friday. But I hope there won't be any really big things we need to discuss so that we can finish or have a final version next Friday when we are done with the meeting at, I think, 4 p.m. or so. Any additional comments?
Just a heads up, Daniel, I will not be able to join you guys probably until about halfway through that meeting next week since I'm still in Japan.
Mm-hmm. So if you have any, but you are working on a few examples with Mike, so Mike can present that, and then can you send a short summary about the outreach activity by the boards and the coalitions to the water board team, and then we can include that. So I will, if it's short enough, then we would include it as an appendix, just like the other appendices we have.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and then of course your thoughts about the additional data, especially the water balance, that will also be something you would like to hear your thought about it, what you would like to be included.
I will see that I can send you the comments before the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So then, yeah, I think we're done with our discussions. Thanks a lot for all the suggestions and the great discussion today. And so then, Sam, back to you. I think we will have a few public comments.
Wonderful. Masterful job getting through the document as always. Great to see that. We do have public comment at this point. Just a reminder to all of our participants that comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes. Any individuals who submitted comment requests in advance of the meeting are given preference, followed by anybody else who would like to provide a comment. If you didn't have a chance to send a comment request before the meeting, you can enter the queue by using the hand raise function. That is found by clicking on the reactions button, followed by selecting hand raise. So I'll read out the first name, and then we'll see if anybody else has comment. So we will go ahead and move through. Please do, again, just a quick reminder, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. The only request that we received in advance of the meeting was from Cleo Maya Johnson. Cleo, if you'd like to provide your comment.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Cleo Maya Johnson, and I'm a community worker with California Rural Legal Assistance, Inc., or CRLA. We're really grateful for all the work that all of you panelists have put in on these recommendations. It's been a long journey that we've been on with you, so thank you for everything you've put in so far. We wanted to bring to your attention the literature review on health and socioeconomic impacts of nitrate contamination, which we submitted to you all as part of our public comments to the panel's draft report. This review was created by CRLA in collaboration with a master's candidate named Alex Rocha at the request of community leaders that we work with across Monterey County who are living with nitrate contaminated drinking water or at risk of living with it. And I'm not going to go into all the findings of the report, but one of the key findings is this. Nitrate contamination disproportionately impacts disadvantaged communities, especially in agricultural regions of California. And the research increasingly links nitrate exposure, even at or below the current MCL that we have, to chronic health conditions, including cancer, thyroid disease, and birth complications. So the communities that we're working with, the communities who requested this literature review, are therefore carrying disproportionate health and economic burdens from nitrate contamination. I don't say this to say that you guys may not be aware of this, but rather to say that we've spent a lot of time collecting the data, and it's deeply integrated with what you all as scientists are looking into and much of the basis of coming up with nitrate limits. The reason we're bringing it up today is that we're concerned in your guys' draft report in version 14, specifically under section 6.3, lines 3090 to 3095, you appear to approach nitrate limits as something that must balance water quality protections with the cost to growers of implementing these conservation practices. And while the expert panel was not charged with economic considerations, given that economic considerations are made here for what it might mean for growers to implement conservation practices, this same framing is overlooking the health and socioeconomic impacts and the related costs that all these communities are already living with when they're drinking contaminated water, and all their children might be drinking it too. So that includes the cost to the state or the community of water treatment and cleanup, the burden of having chronic health conditions, and so on. All this is to say, we recommend that the expert panel take these consequences into effect if you're going to be looking at economic considerations, and recommend to the state water board that they act as quickly as possible to establish enforceable limits on agricultural nitrate loading that truly will protect public health and groundwater sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I see one additional hand raised right now from Daniel Merkley. Daniel.
Thank you. I'm a senior advisor with the Gualco Group, and my comments are on behalf of the California Association of Wine Grape Growers. About 60 minutes ago online, I wrote it down, 2385, you spoke to the following three key issues. But I just kind of want to reiterate this. California wine grape growers apply very little nitrogen. Our irrigation practices are primarily very efficient through drip irrigation, and wine grapes have a deep root zone. And for these three reasons, wine grapes pose very little to no threat to groundwater. And then lastly, I want to mention that I disagree with the mention of funding is necessary in the report. It's not the place of the expert panel, I do not believe. The State Water Board has shown they have no problem going to the legislature for funding authorization. They can and will hold up the recommendations from the expert panel to support their request for funding authorization. And to be clear, this will stack additional fees on growers. Thank you. Appreciate all that you've done. Don't know if Thomas is still on, but I'm sure he's riding around Japan on his Harley.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Thank you, Daniel. Next, we have Modibo Kaita, followed by Horacio Amasquita. Modibo.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Modibo Keita with Sustainable Conservation. I'd just like to once again express our support for the panelists and all their work that they've done so far. Working really hard on all these questions and wrangling all of these varying opinions to get us to this point. And I'd just like to mention that, given the changes that you guys have covered today, you as the panelists still have the option to ask for another working session if there's any worry of not having everything finalized by the final meeting currently scheduled for the 5th. It'd be really great to have you guys finish strong given all the public input thus far. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Horacio Amasquita.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Horacio Mesquita. I'm from the Salinas Valley. I'm a farmer, and I also live in the San Gerardo community for 35 years. And I was the general manager for 17 years. So I went through the experience on the damages, the nitrates did to the community. 3 of the wells were contaminated. A 4th one was, they have to build it 2 miles away from the community. While I was there, 9 people died of cancer in a small community. There's more than 9 people on chemotherapy. And I just want to mention this because the literature review, Cleo Maya just talk about it. There's a lot of communities that are suffering. They They suffer many sicknesses. They don't die right away, but in the long run, they die. The cost just on the San Gerardo community is 500% more that the people are being paid to get clean water 2 miles away from the community. So we need to have some real tough regulations. Just for me, being a farmer, I think that farmers can learn, the ones that are overusing too much nitrogen, but they need to have some technical assistance. They need to be educated on when to put fertilizer, when is the right time, the right place, and how much each time. Because if some growers are using, just an example, using 300 pounds per acre, and another one is using 500, that's 200 pounds more that is being wasted and it's being percolated to the aquifers. But as a community member, I'm just talking about community member because it's better to have healthy people than just putting so much nitrogen in the crops.
You conclude your comment?
Yes, I want to thank everybody. You guys put a lot of effort, a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Are there any additional members of the public who would like to provide comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, quick reminder that the final plenary session is currently scheduled for Friday, June 5th at 10 a.m. at the State Water Resources Control Board in the Cal EPA building in Sacramento. Before we wrap up, I'd like to hand it first to Chief Deputy Director Karen Mogus at the State Water Board for closing comments, and then back over to Chair Geisler to close us out. Karen.
Thanks. I'll keep it quick. Just want to echo all of the thanks to the panel. I also wanted to mention thank you to all of you who are online and participating and sticking around for all of these discussions. Clearly, this is a topic that is of great interest across many sectors of our communities and the agricultural community. And so just wanted to thank you all for also participating, providing your comments at each meeting, and providing your written comments on the draft report. Definitely worth the dialogue, and I have benefited very much from all of it. So will our decision making moving forward once the panel has completed their report. So thank you to everyone. Great discussion again today, and I look forward to more discussion next Friday and to hopefully see many of you in person here at the Cal EPA building. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen. And Daniel.
I just want to thank everybody for your contributions tonight and have a nice evening. Thanks a lot.
All right. That will conclude the meeting. Thank you all for attending.